Hey there, it's JohnBerry555 and welcome to my review of the second episode of the new Willow series on DisneyPlus. The episode being called the High Aldwin. So this episode picks up directly where the previous episode leaves off. They have found Willow and the I forget the name of Willow's people, but their village. We do know that they've kind of moved more underground in order to be a bit safer. But there's a lot of things going on in this episode, being pursued, hunted down, if you will. Because what we find out is the commander of the god, something's up with him, something not normal, something evil, if you will. I'm saying some kind of possession or influence relating to the injury he sustained in the previous episode. Something's going on there, and we're gonna figure out. But he attacks one of his own men, and his other men don't notice. And I think they were spread out doing a search at the time, but yeah, something's up with him. We're gonna find out. But that was the main thing I want to talk about. What I really want to talk about is the opening credits. I forgot to talk about this in my previous video, a review, but I do very much like that the opening credits are presented as a storybook. It's small and all that, it's not much, but I do appreciate it being a storybook because Willow is a fantasy story. It makes good sense to use that storybook style opening. You know, you're telling a story. It's a world of fantasy and myth, of magic and suspense, all that stuff. So a storybook for the opening is logical, if you will. And that's what I really like about the intro. Though I still say, shows just don't do introductory sequences like they used to. Literally, the only show I know of that I'm actively watching, or shows I should say, are the Star Trek shows. Those are the only ones I know that are actually bothering to do openings. And I think that's largely because Star Trek has always had a history of doing, well, grand openings with musical scores, classical style music, just upbeat music. That's very common in Star Trek. But lots of other shows, Star Wars, now Willow, they have some kind of opening title, but that's really about it. I do kind of wish, well, I do wish I could see more of that, but I really do appreciate what Willow is doing. Sure, it's not grand flashy with a nice theme song, but it fits the world, if you will. A world of magic. A storybook is just makes sense. It's logical, if you will. It's maybe not the kind of credits that I would like, but I do like what they did. So speaking of music, I'm not a big fan of the end credits. It feels a bit too modern, if you will, especially the music. It just doesn't feel like it fits the world of Willow. That's probably my only complaint I have about the series so far. Like, serious complaint that actually takes me out of enjoying. It's the end music. Just, it doesn't feel like it fits the world of Willow, or even the 1980s. If it fit that time frame, I think I would be a little more enjoying it, able to put it into my experience a bit more. But just the way they're doing it is just not working out. But that's the end credits. It's easy to like pause and just go and record my review. But I'm listening just to get a feel of the credits, to really get the whole experience as the filmmakers are trying to convey. But there's a few other things going on. We learn Willow is trying to teach a lot of magic, and at the very end, spoilers, but she does accomplish with a small little seed spell getting to grow, but she doesn't realize it because she's been taken by the commander of the god, who we know is not in his right mind. And that's, as I said earlier, probably the best way of describing it, because something's wrong with him, but I don't think he knows something is wrong with him, if you will. But yeah, so they're going to have to rescue her now. But probably he's going to be taking her to where they're trying to go. So that does make some sense there. So they'll be able to continue the story on as well. But one thing I've definitely noticed in this, especially with the characters, because as I said earlier, the characters are what I'm hoping to get the best story out of Willow. Because that's what I kind of gleaned from the previous, or from the film. It's the characters is what I really enjoyed more than the world or that, the characters. And here, Stephanie, I really enjoyed what we're seeing with Willow so far. We see that he has doubts, because let's be real, his greatest accomplishment, he just used sleight of hand. It wasn't grand, mystical, or magical, or anything like that. But still, despite his self-doubts, you can tell he's respected among his community. He's literally the High Aldwin of his village now. He's gained respect, but he still has a lot of his self-doubt. So that is something very interesting to take note of. Despite all that he's done and how he's respected in his community, he still has lots of the same self-doubts he had way back in the original film. That's good, in my opinion. That shows that there's still room for character development, character growth. You know, he definitely showed courage, but that doesn't necessarily mean he hasn't lost his doubts. That is understandable. One other thing I really did appreciate as well is they actually had Warrick Davis's daughter play Willow's daughter. I really do like that. It's always nice when an actual parent and child can play parent and child on the screen. You don't get that all the time because not every parent is an actor while the child is, and vice versa. But when that can happen, I really do like it. I'm just going to talk a little bit about Mashal. There were a couple episodes where Alan Alda's father appeared at least twice. Granted, never as Hawkeye's father, but just having the father and son acting across from each other. There's just something so nice about that, and they did that as well with Willow, bringing in father and daughter and have them play characters who happen to be father and daughter as well. It really does help make the father-daughter relationship feel real when you actually have that in the actors. Well, sure, a big part of being an actor is being able to play something that you're not. But how about playing something that you're not, but drawing from what you are to enhance what you're not? To my knowledge, Warrick Davis is not a sorcerer, but he's playing a sorcerer, and having his real-life daughter play his character's daughter, that helps in some way bring in, I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know the words. But it just makes it feel more real, if you will. I think that might be the best way of describing it. But yeah, those are probably the main takeaways I have from this episode. Not too much about the plot as a whole, because again, I feel like we're more just getting introduced to characters. No, we learned about all the other characters previously, but now we're really need to learn about Aloha and Willow, because they didn't have much to grow from in the last episode. Willow just was at the very end, and Aloha, well, we knew her, but we didn't know her. And now she's figuring out her as we're figuring out her. And that as I really like. There's something I always like about when we're learning about a character as they learn about themselves. I think that's a very neat way of exploring a character. Now granted, having a character not know the truth about themselves can sometimes come off a cliche, but when you're telling a fantasy story, it makes a lot more sense. And really, stories that involve character self-discovery generally are always good, compelling, character-driven stories. So that makes me very hopeful. Let's see. Anything else I would like to go talk about before I make some of my final points? No, I think that is pretty much it. But overall, I enjoyed the second episode, and this is something I was planning on talking about in my first review, but I elected not to do it. The actor who's playing Jade is the same actor who played Enfant's Nest in Solo Star Wars Story. Aaron Kellyman. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. And I was like, she's familiar. Why is she so familiar? Went down to Wikipedia, looked it up, and yep, that's why. She played Enfant's Nest in Solo Star Wars Story. She was also in Captain America and Winter Soldier too, as I forget her character's name though. But it's always nice when you're watching something like, oh yeah, I recognize that actor. Why do I recognize the actor? And also, the actor who's playing Prince Graydon, I found out also acted in an MCU property as well. One of Spider-Man films, I think, as Flash, if I get that correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's always nice when you can recognize actors. Actually, that's a good video topic for another day. But talking about recognizing actors, because I have a good story about that I would love to tell someday. But this review is not the place for that, so that's a story for another time. But anyhow, thank you for watching this review. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comment section down below. What did you think of the second episode of Willow? I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section, and let's get the conversation going. If you haven't done so already, feel free to check out in the links that are down below. And if you haven't already done so, feel free of giving the video a like, upvote, and share, and subscribing and following the channel if you haven't yet done so. And as always, have a good day, a good night wherever you are. May the force be with you, always.